use the raised hand feature and we can get through it. So we'll start with Anthony, then Ben.
Hi, Coach. So last week you said that you're always looking at one player that you don't want to beat you. Who do you think that is on James Madison, and obviously why do you think that player is that player?
It's definitely Katie Gordon, leadoff hitter, phenomenal player all the way across the board. I've faced her a number of times. I have a very long history with James Madison. So I faced her before my time at Mizzou and then also my time at Mizzou. She has the ability to be able to change the game. She is a fierce batter in the batter's box, can hit bad balls. So those types of players make me nervous because it's really tough to get them out.
Larissa, what's the early part of this week been like, switching from, the joy, the excitement, the enthusiasm of that near perfect weekend to now the focus on a new opponent and preparation?
Practices are the same, but it's a different level of energy. I mean, we're not in school. We're playing for an opportunity to go to the College World Series. So there's a lot of excitement in the air, but still very, very focused. I know I'm having a good time. I'm really enjoying being out there, and we're playing music at practice, and we're not trying to put any more added pressure on them. I mean, the game already has enough pressure as it is. So it's kind of keeping things light, but still staying disciplined and focused. And then, the coaches really are the ones that worry about the opponent and making sure that we're prepared, spending a lot of time on scouting reports and watching video, and then just giving information to the players as needed on. They don't have any slappers in the lineup. They got a couple kids that have some high number home runs. So this is how we're going to play shifts. And they got one kid that has, she's at 23 stolen bases. So that's really the information that we share within the team. Other than that, it's play Mizzou softball.
Colin and Andrew.
Larissa, you brought it up. You've got history with James Madison. Just what are you expecting from the Dukes this weekend, and what the atmosphere is going to be like in the softball stadium?
The atmosphere is going to be awesome. It's going to be all Mizzou. So I expect a lot of intensity. I expect the crowd to be on our side. So that's just, it's great to play in our own ballpark. But I know Mizzou is a very, very competitive team. They're going to be well prepared, and they have that mid-major mentality. And that mid-major mentality is to go show the Power Fives that they can play ball. So they have that added chip on their shoulder, not being a seeded team, not being ranked. Kind of the underdog, not getting the respect that the Power Five get when it comes to selection time. So they're going to come in here and they're going to try to prove us wrong and try to take it away from us. So you have to be able to stifle that really, really early by scoring and not giving them an opportunity to think that they can win.
Coach, do you expect the type of pitching performance that you had this past weekend, or is that an anomaly, or is this something that you can continue?
I mean, I would expect it all the time, but after Friday's game, when Jordan throws a one-hitter, I said I expect you to have that type of performance every single time you're out there. And look what she did on Sunday. So I'm just going to keep telling her that's what I expect out of her. But I mean, it was a very, very special weekend, I think, all the way across the board. From here on out, the games are just going to get tougher and tougher and tougher. So yeah, you want them to perform well. It's not always going to be the same result, but if she throws the same way she did and the ball's not hit very hard, there might be a couple that are going to bloop in there every once in a while. But I mean, Jordan has had some really great outings the last couple of times that she's been on the field. So from here on out, I do expect her to stay competitive.
Eric and then Dave.
So you mentioned how kind of you heard from some people after the selection show that you didn't coach but were alums here. Was there another round of that after they saw how the regional round went, and how are those messages gone?
The people that have been reaching out and former players, and I got some emails from players back in the Jay Miller era, just saying we're just so proud to see Mizzou back on top. Like, that's been really the overall message of people that are really paying attention. What's been really neat is my ties across the country and coming from the East Coast, and how we're having Mizzou fans all over the place and getting emails from New Jersey and Pennsylvania and New York and all up and down the East Coast of saying, we've been watching every single game. We are Mizzou fans now through and through. What is really special is that there have been a ton of alumni that I coached at Hofstra that are coming out to this regional, that are flying or driving here. And they are now Mizzou fans because they feel the ties to myself as their former coach and Sarah and Michaela as former teammates, that now they feel like it's their program because there's so much of them that's been instilled in Mizzou softball.
Larissa, have you seen the more the season is going on, the more your team wins, they kind of take on more of the mindset or mentality of a favorite now? I mean, maybe they were sneaking up on people in the SEC, but now when you're at 8 seed and you're hosting Super Regionals, there's going to be more expectations kind of heaped on. How do you think this group will take that on?
They've been wanting that. And that's the difference, that they felt like they've been disrespected for the last few years and not getting the accolades and not getting the respect that they felt like they deserved. And now it's finally like, we've been telling you this all along. We deserve to be an 8 seed, and now they're actually feel that they're able to showcase that and people are paying more attention.
Shane and then Graham.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think you were the last coach not named Lauren Laporte to win the CAA championship. Just what's your relationship with her been like through the years when you were coaching in the same conference?
A lot of respect for what they've done. She and I were both assistants when our other former head coaches were the head coach of James Madison and Hofstra. So we kind of went through the process together as being assistant coaches. And then all of a sudden we were both head coaches of the programs that we were working at. And then she was one of the first that reached out to me when I got the job at Mizzou. So a lot of respect for her and what she's done. The last time we had a personal conversation, we talked at the convention, the national convention, and then also when we played each other last year. So, I know what it's like to be in her shoes. I know what a great job she does recruiting and teaching the game. Just have a lot of respect for what she's done at James Madison.
Thank you.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about defense. The ways the softball has evolved offensively and pitching wise is fairly obvious in the last 10, 15 years. But for defense for you, has how you evaluate it, what tools you use, what data you want, has that changed?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, taking a lot of the analytics and programs like 643 CHAR and being able to see sprays and tendencies. So I manage the game a lot differently than I did 5 years ago. Because I have more information now. I have more information because I'm at Mizzou and I can afford it, but I also have more information because there's more programs that give me that information. Same with Sequencer, where I can put in a lineup and it can give me run production. If I'm thinking in my head, I want to switch some people around in the lineup, what is the analytics of how many runs is that going to produce based on their on-base percentage and their RBIs? So yeah, it has changed. We get speed scores. So now we can play people at different depths based on what their speed scores are. So it's allowed me to put my players in a better situation to be more successful.
Thank you.
Colin and Ben.
Yeah, Larissa, I just went and looked, and that Northern Iowa game was one of only a handful of times in the last month and a half you guys haven't scored in the first 3 innings, the first, I guess, turn through the order. How important is that early run support for the success of the team, success of this young pitching? And what sort of things are you doing to make sure that you guys are plating runs offensively through that first time through the order?
I'm glad you said that, because going into Sunday's game, right before the national anthem was played, I had turned to Sarah and I said, if we score 1 in the first inning, I know I'm going to feel a lot better. So, if I feel better, I know the pitchers definitely feel better. But when you score early, you're not putting as much pressure on the pitchers. The pitchers don't feel like they have to throw a shutout inning. So when we do score, it kind of gives them a relief to be able to throw freely. But getting that outing from Lauren Krings, I mean, keeping us at 0-0 for a long time, it helps everybody. You have a lot more trust in your pitchers when they are throwing that goose egg. But I knew after we got through the second time through the lineup and we went back up and Brooke started off, we started to see the ball a lot better and we had some loud outs. So I knew really it was just a matter of time before one of those would fall.
Is scoring that first time through a product you think of a lot of the scouting work that Chris does and the approach to hitting in the cages before the game?
Definitely. And there's times that I know when we go into games and our preparation, like you can see from the very beginning, our plan is matching up perfectly to what the pitcher's throwing. If the pitcher makes an adjustment faster and kind of counterattacking what they think our approach is going to be, that's when it takes us a little bit longer to get back on track.
Coach, you've got a veteran group that's played a lot of softball, but they're still encountering a lot of things for the first time this season. And I'm curious what you feel like has allowed players like, Hattie, Emma, Kayla to take things on, go through experiences for the first time and be successful right away. What allows them to do that?
Obviously nothing takes the place of experience, and all their postseason runs in their careers have been on the road. And I just think playing at home has made such a difference for them. They've had, like, you look at the places that they had to go to, even before I was at Mizzou. 2 years ago, we had to go all the way across the country to UCLA. And before that, they got sent down to Oklahoma. And before that, they were out at Oregon. So they've had some really, really tough experiences where no one ever expected them to win. And then now playing at home, feeling that reward and that comfort level has really changed. So now it's like, I believe Hattie said it best, that it was the best environment she's ever played in her entire career. And having that feeling just gives you so much more comfort and security in what you're doing.
Eric Lopez and Eric Blum.
Coach, obviously you mentioned earlier with Lauren, both of you being assistants. Did you see her as a head coach as you were battling each other in that rivalry between Hofstra and JMU? And how do you explain the JMU rise? You saw them rise to the top there when you were there, and they've maintained that. How do you explain their success?
They had tremendous support within their athletic department. I mean, you see what JMU football has done and winning, 1AA national titles, and all their sports across the board are very, very successful because they have such tremendous support from their university and from their athletic department. I think Lauren was kind of thrown into that head coaching role because no one was expecting Mickey Dean to leave when he did. And then she took it on, and I know she had just started a family and she had a newborn at the time. And then all of a sudden she's a head coach. And, in talking with her, it was like, okay, I don't know if I was really ready for this. And it was different than my situation. My head coach was retiring. So I had a couple of years to mentally prepare that when I was going to take over. But she responded beautifully. And, she's had her second child and just has done a tremendous job maintaining their national level of excellence. She has a really great recruiting base. When she's out recruiting some of those other Virginia State schools, she's doing a good job.
Larissa, correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably still know what it's more like to be the little engine that could as a JMU and facing the big dogs of college softball more so than coaching one of the big dogs of college softball. How do you define that difference? And then, does that give you a unique perspective to the legitimate challenge that JMU does present?
It does, because the little engine that could, the mid-majors, again, are always out to try to prove everybody wrong. And so they have nothing to lose. Like, no one's expecting them to win, because when you look at on paper the resources that Mizzou gets versus the resources that James Madison gets, it's Mizzou's expected to win. And it's very hard for a softball coach to justify to their athletic director why a mid-major beat a Power 5 school. But again, the game doesn't care. Softball does not care. The ground ball, the pitch that's being thrown doesn't care what school you're playing for and if you're a Power 5 versus a mid-major. It's about the execution and who wants it more. And those JMU players are going to come in and they're going to want to prove who they are and that they deserve to be there. And they're going to want to go to the World Series just as bad as we do. So we have to be able to stifle their energy and overcome some of those intangibles and make sure that we focus on what we need to do.
Anthony.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned a couple of times, JMU coming in as the mid-major, look with a bit of a chip on their shoulder because of that. How do you kind of counter that energy and make sure that you guys don't get surprised by them in any ways?
It's kind of the same message that we've had to send all year long when you're playing non-conference games, and every single game matters. And sometimes we are the biggest game on someone's schedule, and they would like nothing better than have their World Series on a Wednesday afternoon. So JMU is going to come in here and wanted to destroy our entire season. So we can't take them lightly. We have to make sure that we stay focused and we counterattack and we make adjustments and we go out and we try to be the aggressor and make them play to our level rather than being defensive and play to their level.
Colin?
Yeah, Larissa, just broadly, you've been in this job for a little bit now. What does it mean for Mizzou softball to be back hosting a super regional, and what would it mean to the chance to go to another Women's College World Series?
So I thought about this morning actually, and I can tell you when we were playing UCLA and we beat UCLA and we had to go to Game 7 in that if game, I turned and I'm watching our pitchers warm up in the bullpen, and we had 30 minutes in between games, and I turned to Chris Malvo and I said, "We're going to Supers next year." And obviously 2020 happened and we had no postseason, but we knew we were going to Supers next year because of what we were able to do against UCLA. We knew what we had to coach. We knew what we needed in the dugout. We knew what we needed in the locker room. So now it's just a matter of going out and getting it. And now we have it. We have the right people in the locker room. We have the right people on our team. So getting to where we felt like we were going to go is probably the greatest reward. And looking at those players and saying, you have done every single thing that we have asked the last 3 years. Just think about what we've had to do. And you've done it. And you've done it with a smile on your face and the work ethic and the sweat falling down from your brow. And you have completely bought into what we were trying to do here. So now let's just continue to finish it. Because again, we're not done yet. And we are having such a great time right now in everything that we're doing that we don't want the season to be over this weekend. We want to keep playing with each other as long as we possibly can.
All right. Thank you, Coach. We'll have players on.